day of my Psych 210 class, my professor remarked that the textbook wasn't necessary, but if you wanted it, you could get it online pretty inexpensively. Just as he said this, the freshman sitting next to me ripped the shrink wrap off his $300 brand new 9th edition textbook. I think we as Clemson students hate to hear that kind of thing because we've all been there. Textbooks are so confusing, and I feel like we never know what the best decision is for us. And I think that's especially prominent when we look at if we want to get e-textbooks or physical textbooks. This dilemma is pretty specific to our generation. Whereas our parents didn't have personal computers, they didn't have the internet, our future children, even our younger siblings, are growing up with iPads and Kindles. According to Caroline Kellogg, who is a staff writer at the LA Times, in her article from last May titled, "E-book sales almost doubled in 2012, the sales of e-books went up 44.2% from 2011 to 2012. This is a trend that's not going anywhere. E-books are definitely becoming the future. And this is something that I was torn between, because I'm an avid reader, I love paper books, but I definitely want to make sure that I'm going with what's best for me as a student, not just what I'm used to. And I feel like all of you want that same information. So I've come to the conclusion that the benefits of e-textbooks far surpass that of physical textbooks for today's college students. And I base that evaluation on 3 criteria. Those criteria being readability, and that's the ease at which the material is understood and utilized. Efficiency in terms of time, portability, and also making sure we're not buying more than what we need. And lastly, cost, in terms of cost for both students and schools as a whole. So I'd like to start off with readability, because I think that's was the biggest aversion I encountered when I talked to Clemson students about why they didn't choose to use ebooks already. According to Ferris Jabbar, who is a writer for Scientific American, in his 2011 article called Reading in a Digital Age, he says that reading ebooks can actually be easier than reading paper books for several reasons. First off, you can zoom in and out on a textbook, on an e-textbook. You can't do that with a paper book. You can also highlight, you can make changes, and you can see the pages side by side. I know we've all been frustrated when you've got a graph on one page, you've got the information on the other page, you're flipping back and forth, and it just makes everything confusing. All of these are just because you're not limited to the physical nature of a bound paper book. According to the New York Times article called, it's an article by Nick Bilton, and he cites Professor Alan Hedge to say that e-readers are actually easier to read than paper books because of the screen, which is a huge reason that people don't like e-readers that I've heard from Clemson students. But actually, they're going back to where screens used to refresh at a pretty slow rate. It was flickering, but new technology doesn't do that. So the screen is actually a lot easier to read than they have been in the past. So e-readers and e-books are easier to read than paper books because they're more interactive. You're not compromising the integrity of the book as you would with a paper book if you make changes. And the new screen technology makes it more pleasant to read than they have been in the past. Let's talk about why they're more efficient. E-books are more efficient in terms of time, portability, and also not buying the same book twice. In terms of time, you're not waiting in those long lines in Hendrix as you are at the beginning of the semester and the end of the semester, because you can just buy the textbook online. You also don't have the fear that they may be out of the textbook once you get to it. So that can cause some huge problems in the class if you don't have access to the textbook, but when you're using an e-book, you don't have that problem. They're obviously more portable than a paper book. You know how it is having those backpacks full of huge textbooks, and with an e-reader, you're consolidating everything down to just one unit that's a lot easier to carry. And even if you don't have an e-reader, which a lot of us don't, you can use your laptop, which most of us bring to class anyway. I think the biggest reason that e-books are more efficient than paper books is because of the access codes. I'm sure all of you at one point have had to buy an access code for one of your classes. And when you're buying an access code for homework purposes or resource purposes, you've already got access to that online textbook. So if you try and buy a paper book to maybe recoup some of that cost, try and sell it back at the end of the year, you're actually buying a book that didn't need to be purchased in the first place. Pretty illogical, pretty inefficient. So ebooks are definitely a more efficient choice for today's college student because they're easier to carry, they're lightweight, they save you time, and you're only buying the book once. Nobody wants to buy the same thing twice. So I'd like to wrap up with my last point of the benefits of ebooks, and that's a huge one for us, cost. Ebooks just cost less than paper books. So even if the access code isn't required for a class, you're already saving money. According to Hoffman marketing communications writer Rita Runner and university faculty members from around the world in the article Cost and Benefits to Research Libraries, you can download many textbooks for free or at a very low cost. So your students are saving money in that way. But also schools are saving money as a whole, which they can then pass on to students if their libraries incorporate ebooks instead of physical books. According to Dr. William Walter, who's the Dean of Library Services at Menlo College, in his article called Challenges to Acquisition and Management, when libraries incorporate ebooks into their physical libraries, they're saving time for restocking, reorganizing, inventory. They're not having to worry about lost books, stolen books, damaged books. And it just saves time and money for universities as a whole. And I think we all want to save money for ourselves, and we want our schools to be saving money. So now we should just take a step back and look at the benefits of ebooks as a whole. They're more readable than paper. They're more interactive. You don't have to worry about the limiting nature of a physical bound paper book. They're more efficient. They're easier to carry. You're not buying the same book twice. And they save you time both at the end and the beginning of the semester. I know it can be difficult for today's college student to think about steering away from traditional paper books because that's what we're used to. But an ebook is better for students as their education as a whole. Clemson students, we're going into a new semester. As you go to buy your textbook, consider buying an ebook. It's better for you, it's better for your class, and you're going to get a better experience in your class and your education than you would if you had a paper textbook. Clemson faculty, as you go into your new semester and you're designing your class and you're thinking about making changes, consider making your class more friendly. Students that choose to use ebooks, because it's a better advantage for their education, it's a better advantage for the class as a whole. Clemson can benefit on the whole by using ebooks. So I know it's hard to think about not adhering to paper books just because they're the norm, but with the advantages of ebooks, they won't be the norm for long. Thank you.